Revelation 5. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. And they sang a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain, and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and hast made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. And I beheld, and I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and the beasts, and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power, and riches, and wisdom, and strength, and honor, and glory, and blessing. And every creature which is in heaven, and on the earth, and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, Blessing, and honor, and glory, and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb, forever and ever. And the 4 beasts said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshipped him that liveth forever and ever.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the 4 winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers and listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and what we want to get into today, GMS Mississippi camp. All right, and brother Yashimaf got the beloved brother Anah, online. And what we want to get into today is dealing with the deception of modern society. Now we hear this word modern, thrown around a lot. Okay, and you hear about the modern woman, modern society, and you hear about these things. Well, what is modernism? And first, as we've been talking about a lot lately, you got to go into dealing with what you call the Enlightenment period. All right, which is a time all right, when Esau really began to bring, these satanic, all right, ideologies, okay, to the forefront. So we're going to go into the Enlightenment, and then we're going to deal with modernism and show you how, modernism is nothing but an extension, all right, of the Enlightenment, all right, period of Esau Edom, which goes back to Masonry, with Masonry goes back to Satanism. Okay, so I'm gonna share these two real quick, and then we'll get some precepts, and then we'll go into the video. In the video I'll kind of expound, how the devil, has deceived the world. And this man, the scriptures say he's more subtle than any, beast of the field, going back to the serpent. And this man, rules the earth, okay, through enchantments, deception, confusion, and chaos, man. Okay, and it's intentional. People, wonder why everyone's scrambling, trying to figure out a solution. You have Jake, stop the violence rally, and a war on poverty. Well, this devil, he creates the violence, he creates the poverty. This system is set up to keep people poor, to keep people violent, to keep people on edge, to keep people on confusion. All right. So people, you have these little groups and organizations and have little town hall meetings and what we gonna do. Well, it's a whole system, all right, that's purposefully doing these things and causing these outcomes, man. Okay. So let's go here real quick. So let's go to the term enlightenment. All right. And this is, where you get the Illuminati and see what the devil did with the enlightenment period. He pretty much infiltrated, all, business sectors, all right, all religions, all of government, okay, all of education, and he brought this ideology of the Enlightenment, okay, was rooted back in Satanism. All right, it said the Enlightenment was a philosophical and intellectual movement that dominated European thought in the 17th and 18th centuries, emphasizing reason, individualism, and scientific method over traditional beliefs and authority. Okay, over traditional beliefs and authority. So individualism, emphasizing reason, individualism, and scientific method over traditional beliefs and authority, which ultimately is talking about the scriptures, man. Okay, this is enlightenment period with this devil, undermining the Most High. Okay, it says it championed the power of human reason and critical thinking to understand the world and to improve society. So this was this devil saying, like, look, we, all right, as people can come together with our own reasoning and come up with a better way of existing than what's written in the scriptures, man. The righteousness and the order that's written in the scriptures. You see? So when you go from there, and you get this term here, modernism, because you're gonna hear this guy talk about modernity, which he just talking about modernism or modern, you know. So when you go to modernism, just a quick, simple definition said modernism was a movement in the arts in the first half of the 20th century that rejected traditional values and techniques and emphasized the importance of individual experience. Okay, so when you hear someone say the modern woman, does not this that their belief system? Okay, till they reject all traditional values and techniques. Okay, but their whole life is all about the importance of the individual experience. My body, my choice. Okay, it's all about them until they die. No, it's like this is ideology of Satan. Okay, in the modern way of thinking, the modern way of existence. Where the masses have to depend on grocery stores, and no one knows about agriculture. This is a modern way of living. The city life. To where you don't have to have any true skills. Okay, but you can feast, and drink as much as you can afford. Okay, and you don't even have to have skills. All right, when it comes to the earth, when it comes to living in agriculture and things that truly matter. So we're living in a very modern society where traditional values, all right, and techniques are rejected. And it's a big emphasis on the importance of the individual experience, man. That's why each generation gets worse because everyone is only concerned about themselves, man. No one is, there's no collective, all right, prepping the next generation, all right, to succeed, to win. It's all about self. It's all about this one lifetime, that YOLO spirit, man. All this connected back to modernism, you know. So uh you want to get there, bro? The definition.
Uh, cause we, that was in the spirit. We were talking about that having that individual spirit, and that goes back, that individual spirit is demonic. That's not of Yahweh Shema Shah. Because at any time if you go through our history, our culture, we've always worked better as a collective. We always work better as a unit. So part of that individual spirit is not good, man. So I just wanted to get that definition for individualism when it comes to the spirit. So I looked up spiritual individualism, just a quick Google search, and then you want me to read it, bro?
Yeah, you can read it, bro.
It says it is a concept that emphasizes personal autonomy and self-discovery in matters of faith and spirituality. And here's the point: it says often rejecting the authority of traditional religious institutions or doctrines, and that goes back to just it's mainly saying it's often they're rejecting the truth. They're rejecting the traditional truth. They're rejecting the traditions of the scriptures. What it means to follow Yahweh Shema Shah. They're rejecting the source or the origin of Yahweh Shema Shah.
And we always get this, but I get it real quick. And just to make the point. So you can read this, bro, in Psalm chapter 2 and 3 in the NLT.
Come, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 3 NLT. Let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to the power, to the Most High.
Yeah, from slavery to the Most High. And this is the energy that's behind, all right, this beast system. It's all about, transcending beyond righteousness and just everyone doing their own thing. And then he talked about, self-discovery. That's why you have, men talking about they discover they women, women talking about they discover they men. It's all just pure rebellion against order and the authority of Yahweh Shema Shai. And that's why the judgment gonna be so bad, in this time. That's why, as we spoke about, we was going into Jacob trouble about how the tribulation, because Jacob trouble is gonna be, bad for Jake. But then there's a global judgment for the world, that the Lord is bringing, and it's gonna be so bad because the rebellion is so far left, man. This is where Esau has led everyone to, completely astray from righteousness in any form, man, in any capacity, man. So I got a couple more precepts I want to get, then we get the video. You finna say something, bro?
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you, bro. And it's so bad now to the point where if you try, because right now, we know we can't keep the whole law, we can't keep everything, but we do this to the best of our abilities. We put that best effort in, we try genuinely name Yahweh Shema Shah. You're looked down on for that. You look down on, you look like you're less than, you're talked about just because you want to do the right thing, and the right thing is following Yahweh Shema Shah the best way you can to the best of your abilities, not making all the excuses and everything, bro.
Exactly, bro. So let's go here. Book of Isaiah, chapter 60 and 2, and you can read that, bro.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 2. It says, behold, the darkness shall come over, so like the darkness shall cover the earth, the gross darkness, the people, but so like and gross darkness, the people, but Yahweh Hashem Yahushua shall arise upon thee, as glory shall be seen upon thee.
Yeah, so in the midst of the darkness, the Lord, he extrapolated a remnant, and gave us says wisdom, which is the light. We can see through the darkness, man. All right, but this devil has put a gross darkness, a dark veil, over the masses, man. And you go into this word darkness, okay, because he called it the enlightenment, but really it was darkness, man. You know. So when you go here to darkness in the Hebrew, all right, it's hashak, all right, which when you go into it, it's a darkness or obscurity. Now, I want to get this word real quick, obscurity. Okay. All right. When you go into the word obscurity, what does that mean? All right. So you go to obscurity. All right. It says the quality. I'm gonna get the second two definitions. Says the quality of being difficult to understand, a thing that is unclear or difficult to understand. And this man made simple things difficult to understand. All right. You have women that don't know what being a woman is. You have men that don't know what being a man is. Okay. You got a whole society don't know what family is. Okay. You got a whole society that doesn't understand the simple things of the earth around them, man. Know nothing about, the simplicity of life, man. This man made simple things difficult to understand. There's high school children that don't know their way home from their school. Like this is how dumbed down this man has made society to where people can't even remember simple directions of their own city. So you have children because they're in their phone. Because remember, before the phone, you used to look outside the bus window. But see, that was all development for our mind. It's a lot of things that naturally develop our mind that this man has taken away and replaced with entertainment and distraction, man. To where you have high school children that don't know their way home from school, man. Okay, and it's getting worse. Each generation is getting worse because every generation lives for itself. All right, and now the next generation after this, it's going to be even more harder to understand the simplicity, of life. All right, because this devil has put gross darkness, over the people, man. So yeah, we can get the video. You can say something, bro, while I get this video.
Look, bro, I just found some images. I'm gonna send you real quick.
Okay, come.
Yeah,
so yeah, let's play this.
The video
okay, come. So yeah, let's play this. All right, like I said, he's going to go in. Fair use. This is for educational purposes only. This is not being monetized. We're not making any profit off this video. Fair use for educational purposes only. All right. So let's let this play. And you got this quote. All right, from this guy. It says, "Men, be humane." This is from Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and it says, "This is your first duty. Be so to all. Let neither art nor science nor even glory be worth the price of the peace of the heart, which is the peace of the mind." And this is what this devil has stole from everyone, just a peace of mind. And this is why the earth is so frantic and anxious and violent, and urgent and impulsive, man. Because this man has stole, as the scriptures say, all right, this devil, all right, would take peace from the earth, which we'll get that. Matter of fact, I'll get it before it leave me, We'll get this in the book of Revelation 6:4. I'll copy and paste it real quick. And then we'll let the video play. Because just reading that quote made me think of that. All right. Yeah, you can read that, bro. You take it mute off. Yeah.
Go ahead,
No, you good.
Listen, book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 4. It says, "And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword."
Yeah, so there was power. There were one. It said there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that set their own. That's Esau, Edom. That red horse is symbolic for Esau and his power, man. Red going back to Esau, Edom, okay, which is red, okay, in the Hebrew, and then you have, all right, the horse which represents power. So this is Esau's power, okay. This represents how Esau would rule the earth, all right, and he was blessed with the sword, and with that sword he would take peace from the earth, man. And the sword goes beyond, a weapon, to physically harm you. All right, this man has, the sword he has went to another level with the sword, which is he's tampering with people's psychology, man. Their spirits. He's able to destroy people's spirits, man. Through his enchantments. All right. So let's go here. Let's let this play.
Modernity has been sold as the pinnacle of human development. We are told that we live in the best time in history, in a world where technology has eliminated many of the hardships that plagued past generations. We can communicate instantly with anyone on the planet, access an unlimited amount of information, and enjoy comforts that were unthinkable just a few decades ago. However, despite all these advantages, something fundamental seems to be missing. Instead of feeling more fulfilled, many people experience a sense of emptiness they can't explain. We were promised a better world, but somewhere along the way, that promise was broken. From a young age, we absorb the narrative that society advances in a linear and progressive manner. We believe that every innovation brings us closer to a fuller, more comfortable, more meaningful life. However, this belief is rarely questioned. It is assumed that technological and economic development automatically equates to greater well-being. But if that were true, why do more and more people feel dissatisfied? Modernity has created a paradox. Instead of bringing us closer to happiness, it has amplified the sense of disconnection. The problem does not lie in progress itself, but in the way human existence has been redefined within this new structure. Society has transformed life into an endless race, where the goal is not to live, but to produce and consume. We are taught that the key to fulfillment lies in constant growth, in the accumulation of goods, in optimizing time, in maximizing performance. But in the obsessive pursuit of these ideals, we have lost sight of what is essential. The promise of progress also sold us the illusion of connectivity. We were told that technology would bring us closer than ever before, that it would eliminate distances and facilitate human relationships. However, reality proves otherwise. Instant communication has not strengthened bonds, but made them more superficial. Digital interaction has replaced genuine contact, and constant exposure to images of other people's lives has turned comparison into a destructive habit. Never before has humanity had access to so many forms of interaction, yet the feeling of isolation continues to grow. Another pillar of this broken promise is the idea that knowledge would set us free. Access to information is practically unlimited, but instead of leading us to a deeper understanding of the world, it has plunged us into an ocean of distractions. We live bombarded by stimuli that fragment our attention and prevent us from stopping to reflect. Information has ceased to be a means to wisdom and has become a fast consumption product designed more to entertain than to enrich. The very structure of the system has shaped our aspirations and expectations. We are told that success is synonymous with status, that financial stability is the foundation of happiness, that life should be planned and measured in terms of achievements. But these goals, far from providing satisfaction, have generated a constant sense of inadequacy. Progress has imposed a mechanistic view of existence where a person's value is measured by their productivity and usefulness within the social machine.
So real quick, just to touch on a couple of things before we go on. All right, when you go, as he spoke about, superficial. So just to get this word superficial. All right, so you go here to superficial. It says, I'm gonna go to the last definition. It says, appearing to be true or real only until examined more closely. Okay, and this is a very superficial society. Where people can people can be these characters online, but that's not really who they are. It's a very superficial society where people are always trying to be in character. They're always trying to be this character that they are on social media, but that's really not them. And it has created a society with nothing authentic. People have social skills have plummeted. Okay, people have, there's no true connection amongst people. Neighborhoods really ain't neighborhoods because no one is neighborly, man. It's just a bunch of individual, man. You stay by people, for you know 10, 20 years, and you don't know. This is a very, what they used to have this term close knit society. Well, this technology and people distracted and people being in this rat race, man, it's like everyone's in their own individual world, man. No matter if they're in the crowd, everyone is in their own individual bubble. Okay, and everything is superficial. People are faking as they're happy. People can fake like they're rich on the internet. Women can alter their looks. Men can alter their, status and looks on the internet. So it's all superficial, man. And this is what this devil, has turned society into, is just a superficial, all right, competition, man. you know. You gonna say something, bro?
No, I was saying, Con, bro, when you said that, appearing to be, you getting any feedback? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. You good, bro?
Okay, Con. When you said that appearing to be real or appearing to seem real, they remind me of the Matrix. The Matrix appeared to be, real, but it was this false reality that everybody was plugged into, but really they was being used as a battery. They were being drained, and that's exactly what's happening, in the spirit here today. Everybody's living this false reality, but in Dolly, like you're being used as a battery, by the wicked elites and the wicked rulers of this age.
Mm-hmm. And you go here. I think they call it a cog. I'm gonna look at that word up, cog too. Everyone's just a cog in the machine. And see, Esau got to where you're motivated by status, but and able to sing, even to fake like you got status, you gotta go be a slave. You gotta go be a battery for this machine, and then the little free time you do got, you're trying to pretend like you got it. So Esau has people on this constant hamster wheel to where they're chasing status and clout and instant gratification. So they have to either scheme or plot, or do wickedness or work themselves to death, just to put on as if they have some type of status, man. So when you go here to you can read this in the book of Isaiah 24:10, Bob Shop, bro.
Come on, I got you, bro. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 24, verse 10. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, and no man may come in.
So the city of confusion, what is America. All right. And we're going to the time now where this way of existence, has ran its course, because people are being priced out, to where they can't even afford to pretend anymore. You see? And the city of confusion, all right, all this madness, okay, is being broken down. And when you go into the word confusion, all right, 4148, man. Hey.
Call out Yabashima Shah.
Call like how about Shemal Shah? All right, that new government. All right, it's gonna bring order back to the earth. But you go into this word in the Hebrew, all right, it's taha, all right, taha, which when you go into it, you know, it says formless, all right, confusion, unreality, okay, unreality, nothingness, empty space, that which is empty or unreal of idols. So you're gonna go into that, you know. It says place of chaos and vanity, which is emptiness, man. The place of chaos, all right, and vanity, man. All right, that which is empty or unreal. And this is the society that this devil has engineered, through his technology, man. Because technology is not wicked, but what this devil uses it for is wicked, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because yes, it's more convenient to use, a tractor, than cattle. But when you start using phones and putting signals in there that break down, when you start putting technology that destroy men's testosterone, that break down, your pineal gland, and all this madness that he has put in the technology, man, that's when it becomes a problem. All right, because technology itself ain't wicked, but the way that the devil uses it and the way this man tries to get it to replace, all right, the natural world, that's wicked. Okay, in the kingdom, we're going to have technology, but it's going to work, all right, in sync, okay, with the natural world. Okay, we're not going to make technology to replace the natural world. It's going to be in sync with the natural world, man. All right. Well, this man has created this synthetic society, and that's why you have a society full of emptiness, because the Lord created everything with a purpose, man. So when you remove things from its purpose, there's a sense of emptiness that technology and money and clout and fame don't fill that void. That's why you see the richest and most famous people commit suicide, be bugged out, be depressed, be miserable. Okay, because there's particular purposes that Esau's fame, fortune, and attention, and society, and clout, and status, and awards, that they don't feel their void of true purpose of what creation was created to do, man. From people to animals, to the earth itself, man. You know,
Gone.
um,
Yeah. That remind me of the live you were doing. Remind me of ad, bro. That
you
remind me
got
of the live you were doing earlier today when you made a statement that really hit. It's like sometimes in order to see order, you got to go out in nature. You got to just go and watch how the animals move because they're the only ones who are still in order. They're the only ones who still listen to the spirit and they do what they're designed to do.
Yep, come, bro. Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing because you gotta think about it, like as men, like we really supposed to have our estates that we supposed to be managing, man. We're not supposed to be, in these neighborhoods stacked up on top of each other, man. Like men are supposed to be able to go build and create and be ingenuitive and be out, in the nature, because lately I just been in nature a lot, for hours, man, and that's our element, man. You ain't supposed to be cooped up in no goddamn cubicle. Okay, here it is, you a man with all this testosterone and strength and creativity. All right, but you got down, got a Home Depot apron on. Okay, telling niggas what aisle, to paint on. Like, nah, man, we supposed to be doing way more than this, man. All right, the woman, the reason why the woman, a lot of women are like they are, because they're not in their purpose, man. You see, Eliasha Wamba, he brought it out the other day. Like, women need children, man. Either their own children or grandchildren. Like they supposed that's their element, you know. Like when they don't have that, they try to make the husband the child, try to boss him around. Nah, man, the woman's supposed to have authority, but not over the man. It's supposed to be over the children. And when you're a grandmother, that means you have authority over other mothers, which would be your daughters or your nieces or whatever, and you're aiding them with their children. You see, the reason why the women be bugged out now, they got too much goddamn free time, man. This technology gave them so much free time till they just think of these stupid ass, dumb ass ideas all day. All right, and you come home and you listen to them dumb ass questions, and because they got too much free time. They not in their purpose, man. Yep. So let's go back to the video.
So like it, bro. And then too, that's wisdom being passed down, because the same way, you have that on the other side. You have the men, the fathers passing down to the boys who are becoming men and they're having children. The same, everybody got their purpose on both sides. That's wisdom being passed down, and that keeps things in order.
Yeah, because like you said, a grandfather is a purpose. Because now you got other fathers that you're overseeing, and you're teaching the third generation how to build, man. That's true purpose, man. You see, and that goes into like the Lord. He created everything with a particular purpose, man. And you can't replace fulfilling your purpose that you was created to do. From Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, you can't replace that. I think they was telling me what was the other day, they were telling me about a story. My wife was telling me about a story about this German Shepherd, and it was just so hyper and all over the place. And I don't know if it was a vet, or whatever, but they told them that the dog was so hyper, because those dogs were made for a particular purpose. Like you got to give them something to do. Like because you got them dogs pent up in an apartment somewhere. Like them dogs be created for a purpose. Like we've been looking at these dogs lately. But you go to different breeds of dogs, they got a purpose, man, and they, don't feel they you got them pent up, and that's why they go so crazy when they get out, because they got a purpose that's already in them, but they can't fulfill it in that environment, man. So they had to get that German Shepherd something to do. And when they started doing it, like the German Shepherd, just had a sense of integrity and honor about himself, man. He was walking with, he walked different because he was in his purpose, man. He was doing something, man. But we get back.
The underlying problem is that modernity has redefined the meaning of life in terms not designed for human well-being. Economic growth has been prioritized over personal development, entertainment over introspection, efficiency.
You've probably heard about Boxable's flagship product, the Casita.
Over meaning. We have been trained to pursue goals that ultimately do not fill the void we feel. The paradox of progress is that it has made us more efficient, but not happier, more connected, but not more united, more informed, but not wiser. This contradiction is not an accident or a mere system flaw. It is the inevitable consequence of a structure that prioritizes the functioning of society over individual fulfillment. Modern life has turned us into cogs in a machine that never stops, into participants in a game where the rules are already set, and where the only option seems to be to keep going without questioning where this path leads us. The structure of modern life has shaped people based on their utility within a system that never stops. From birth, each individual is prepared to fit into a machine that demands constant effort. We are educated with the idea that work is the essence of existence, the purpose that gives meaning to our days. However, in this model, work is rarely presented as a path to personal fulfillment. Instead, it becomes an unavoidable obligation that dictates the rhythm of life, absorbing time, energy, and health without offering a real reward beyond mere survival. The workday is extended in subtle, relentless ways. Even when the workday ends, the mind remains trapped in worries that never cease. The technologies that promise to make life easier have blurred the boundaries between personal and professional life, keeping people in a constant state of availability. Fatigue is not just physical, but also mental. It is a feeling of ongoing wear, of being trapped in an endless cycle where each day feels like the last, with no room for pause or genuine rest. Productivity has been glorified as the ultimate virtue, and leisure has been relegated to a secondary role, seen as a waste of time rather than a fundamental need. The system imposes an invisible but persistent pressure to stay busy. Doing nothing becomes an unforgivable sin, as if existence itself depended on the ability to produce without rest. But in this endless race, exhaustion is inevitable. Anxiety and stress are not anomalies, but the natural state of those conditioned to measure their own worth based on their performance. Consumption emerges as the other pillar of this equation. For the system to function, it is not enough to work tirelessly. It is also necessary to spend. We have been taught to find satisfaction in the accumulation of goods, to see consumption as a path to happiness. But this happiness never arrives because the mechanism is designed to be insatiable. As soon as one product is obtained, the need for another appears. The illusion is created that satisfaction is always within reach, but in reality, it is a mirage that moves farther away with each step.
And the devil, has people trying to chase, happiness or joy through consumerism, and that's why these nations love America, like we did that video, The American Idiot, where you had Eve, going crazy about being qualified to buy a goddamn Birkin bag. Okay. So people, chase, their void of not having no purpose with consumerism, and that's why the American market, and that's why these nations put up with a lot of American bullshit, okay, because America got this dumbass market that they benefit off of, man. So I want to get a few precepts because and that's why the ultimate wisdom is in the scriptures, man. And this goes back, remember, modernism is the rejection of traditional values, all right, for the individual experience, okay. But this is why, you had systems set up in the Bible, to where everyone benefited from, and rest, all right, is a thing ordained by the Lord, and that's something that even we come in the truth, man. One of the things that we have to learn to do is sit our ass down somewhere sometime, man, because we've been taught by this society, just to go, go, go. I was one of them, I know you can attest to, bro, being one of those guys that just gone, there's no rest. You just run yourself till you on fumes, till your body just give out, man. All right. Yeah, till you crash out, man. Yep. When you go to Exodus, you can read this in Exodus 20 verse 8 through 10.
God, this is the book of Exodus chapter 20 verses 8 through 10. It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. Verse 10.
So the scripture even had the work week set up, man. So you got 6 days to get things done, but you should at least, that's the minimum, take a day, to recover, to reflect, and that day is supposed to be holy to Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. All right, you got it, bro.
God, verse 10. It says, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy daughter, thy servant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
So everything was shut down. Okay, everything was shut down, man. Okay, and you had one time, you remember things used to shut down on Sunday, but now, is everything wide open, man. And here it is. Esau has painted the Lord as being tyrannical. The God of the Old Testament. He paint that the God of the Old Testament just being this tyrannical, overbearing, God. But the Lord had a day set up. He made a law. and you will be put to death if you didn't rest on the Sabbath. You know? So now the Lord understood balance. Esau don't understand balance. He don't give a damn what you got going on in your personal situation. He don't care about what type of emergency you got. Esau want production because you're nothing but numbers on the paper. You know, like Jake, the brother Kaya in New Orleans, uh uh, and you had these guys that used to produce a lot at the job that he worked for. And they thought that when the big man came down, he was gonna recognize them or he was gonna know who they were. And Kaya told him, like, look, that man don't know y'all, man. Y'all just numbers on a piece of paper. All right. He trying to get to know you niggas, man. Okay. All you is numbers on a piece of paper. If the numbers don't get right, he coming down here. And the numbers right, all right, you ain't gonna see him. All right. The only time you'll see him if the numbers ain't right, then he'll come down, man. Other than that, you niggas just numbers on the paper, man. You know, Esau will give you these little rewards, employee of the month, employee of the week, and it's shit, dinner on, you get free lunch or something on Friday, or whatever. But that there's nothing, but to encourage you to continue to give your life, all right, to the system, man. You can say something, bro.
Yeah, bro. All that's a part of that modern society, which we talked about it before when you start going, doing the history on that word modernism, which goes to modernized. If you look before that, it was called being westernized, and then before that, it was called being Hellenized. So this modern society is nothing but basically a Hellenistic society, man.
So you go here, come, bro. I wanna you can read verse 11 too, bro.
This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. It says, "For in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven and the earth." Well, Yahweh Shema Shai made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that the sea and all that in them is, and rested in the 7th day. Wherefore Yahweh Shema Shai blessed the 7th day and hallowed it.
He blessed the 7th day, which is the 7th day after the new moon. Okay, because it wasn't no Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. All right, when in Genesis. Okay, that's even modern. This calendar, okay, that people go by. All right, the Julian calendar. Okay, go back to Rome. All right, that's modern. Okay, so we have to understand. All right, the Lord, even the Elohim, going back to Yahweh Shai, those first fruit angels, when they was creating everything under the order of the Heavenly Father, they rested. They rested, and it wasn't actual days. They worked in 1,000-year periods. All right, 6,000-year periods, and then they rested in the 7,000 year. So they worked 6,000 years and they rested for 1,000 years, man. Show you the Lord is all about that duality, man. Work, and rest. All right. But this devil, he has no balance the way that this man runs the earth. Okay. I want to get this. All right. Let's get this here. Because going back, a day to the Lord, is 1,000 years to us. Okay. So going back in the beginning, they worked, those 6 1,000-year periods, and they rested at 7. All right. So let's get this, bro. Because even with spending, the scriptures, okay, don't tell you to destroy yourself, all right, by just spending, to try to show status. See, the scriptures are against everything. See, this is what they rejected in this modern society is the order and the structure and the wisdom of the scriptures to everybody just do as I will. You got it, bro. We can read Sirach 18 and read 30 to 33.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 18, starting at verse 30. It says, "Go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If
Yep.
thou givest," go ahead.
No, you got it, bro.
"If thou givest thou soul the desires that please her, she shall make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee."
Yep. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying a good day, because the scriptures say once you pay your tithes, you can spend your money how you please. Okay, and so there's nothing wrong with enjoying the day. But see, there's a limit to everything. You see, and this what this society hates, is being told that there's a limit. But here it is. This devil gives you all type of limits. Okay, he tell you how many deer you can hunt, how many fish you can catch. Okay, but when it comes to drinking yourself into a coma or alcohol poison or eating yourself into cardiac arrest, it ain't no limit. But when it comes to things, all right, like you say, he tell you how much you can't catch rainwater in the city, you can't do this and that. Is all type of limitations on the simplicity of life. But when it comes to destroying yourself, there's no limit. That's why you got Jake 13 and 14 with automatic rifles. Like what? Like how is this normal? But it's not normal for a 13 and 14-year-old Jake in the inner city to know how to fish. You see, this man has really turned society, into a bizarro world, man. To what's that, Mad Max? But then you're looked at as weird. If you're into the nature, the outdoors, you're looked to as weird. And if you're not, blowing your wealth, it's like you can't just have assets and chill. Like, nah, you got to show your wealth. You got to blow your wealth. It's backwards, man. Because the whole point of getting wealth is for to have substance. Because money is defense. It's a tool. Okay, it's not nothing used to show status. It's a tool. But this man turned money into a token of status. That's why you can look up people's net worth. Like that shouldn't even be something you should have access to someone's net worth. When you really look at it. But there's just in this society, that's a token of status. All right, but you got it, bro.
It's verse 32. "Take not pleasure in much good cheer, neither be tied to the expense thereof."
Yeah, it said, take not pleasure in much good cheer. All right, because the scriptures say, wine drinking in moderation is cool. If you can find that precept, bro, wine drinking in moderation.
I got you.
So there's nothing wrong, when enjoying yourself. Okay, well, there's a limit. Because you can destroy yourself. Okay, so you can't take pleasure in much good cheer, or neither be tied to the expense thereof, man. All right, and like I say, this society, people have an entertainment bill, to where they spend, all right, a sum of money on bars and clubs and drinking, all right, the strip club, the outfits every week, they're tied to the expense thereof. There's nothing wrong with doing particular things, but it's a moderation to it. Okay, when you don't have any moderation to it, then it becomes harmful to you, man. And this is what this society push, man. And when you're tied to the expense of a certain lifestyle, now this devil has a leverage on you to where you got to keep coming back to the system to finance your lifestyle, not only your bills, but your lifestyle, man. Your entertainment. You see, but you got it, bro. Read verse 33, Bible shot.
Verse 33. It says, "Be not made a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing, when thou hast nothing in thy purse." Go ahead.
No, you got it, bro.
When thou hast made nothing in thy purse, for thou shalt lie in wait for thine own life and be talked on.
Yeah, so be not a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing, and it's going into that credit. What people call credit today. So you're not supposed to live off credit. In this system, that's normal to where people live off credit, man. Just crazy credit card debt, crazy debt. Go get everything that they have financed. Don't own anything. Everything has a note attached to it from the lawnmower, to now a purse. You can throw a purse in the mix now, you know. But everything that they have, pretty much comes with some type of debt. Now we in this society, we gotta do what we gotta do at times, man. Okay, but people banquet off this, man. You got people got 3, 4 cars, 3, 4 car notes, man. Okay, you see, trying to put on. All right.
Mhm.
So the scriptures tell us, no, don't do that. All right. It says, when thou has nothing in thy purse. So if we don't got it, then there's an indicator that we don't need it. We can't afford it. That's the indicator. That's the confirmation that we don't need it. Okay. So um did you find that precept, that wine in moderation?
I'm looking for. You said wine and moderation.
Yeah, I'm probably
Okay, okay. I think I know what it was. Is it it's in the apocrypha, ain't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a Sirach.
Wine.
Second, I'm bringing it up now. Sirach. I think it's 31:27.
Yeah, 31:27. Yeah. I think am I still on I might can grab it real quick. 31:27.
Con, I'm putting it in the
No, I got it. I
chat
got
now.
it right here. Yeah, I got it
Okay,
right here.
okay, con.
I was already on Sirach.
Oh, okay, you was already in there. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, you can read that, bro.
Con, this is the book of Sirach, chapter or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 31, verse 27. It said, "Wine is as good as life to a man. If he be drunk moderately, what
If you be
life
drunk
is."
moderately,
Wait,
if you be drunk moderately, man, So there's nothing wrong with strong drink, wine. All right. There's nothing wrong with, rich food. Just moderation, man. And this is what modern society takes away, is moderation, because it's based on consumerism. People wake up and start the morning, eating things that clog up their digestive system, man. You wake up the morning and clog your digestive system. You going to sleep eating things that clog your digestive system. There's no time for your body. That's why people are so fatigued. And here it is, this man has the system set up to where people are constantly fatigued. But then you have a whole aisle in the grocery store of energy drinks, man, which they destroy you, man. You see? Like, everything is some type of scam, and it's based to keep people being a consumer. Red Bull, really, these things shouldn't even exist. There's natural herbs for energy, man. And if the food wasn't so corrupted, the food gives energy, man. And if people would do things in moderation and give their body time to digest and break things down, you will have energy for other things, because your body isn't so overloaded. All right, always breaking down these trash foods, man. Trying to break down these trash foods. Okay,
mhm.
so everything was meant, to be done in moderation, man. All right, go ahead, bro.
Con. It says, what life is then to a man that is without wine, for it was made to make men glad.
Yeah, for it was made to make men glad. So wine, is a gift, of Yahweh by Shema Shah. These things, that was created, okay, were for our good, okay, but they were supposed to be used in moderation, man. Okay, go ahead, read verse 28.
Verse 28, it says, wine measurably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind.
Yeah, and it always get to the point, like when you're sipping to where you're buzzing and you feel good, but then it always get to the point where you start going downhill, overdoing it. We're all guilty of it. All right, and that's something that we're constantly learning. Just moderation, man. And it's only, I say, not for wine, but for everything, man. Moderation. It's all about moderation. Moderation creates abundance. You got it, bro.
Verse 28. I just read 28, Salakia. Verse 29, it says, but wine drunk with excess maketh bitterness of the mind with brawling and quarreling.
Quarreling, yep, which is fight,
Quarreling.
Yep. So, overdoing it, what does it bring? Bitterness of mind. All right, put spirits on you, put demons on you. Okay, hangovers, and then you're more likely to get into these altercations, man. Okay, so this is just an example that we're going through how the Lord deals with pleasures. There's nothing wrong with pleasure, but when you overdo it, that's the problem, man. So let's go back to the video, play a little more.
I got that word moderately too for you, bro.
Okay, come on, put it up there for you. All right, we'll say moderate. It says moderately. It says, you can read it, bro. Listen.
This is the Google definition of that word moderately. It says in a moderate manner or within reasonable limits.
Yeah, so, within reasonable limits. You got it, bro.
Cause I got the definition just to back up the brother and the back of the precept that going into that word moderately. Well, using the word moderately to give you the definition of what the precept actually means. So when we're drinking, everybody has that wall you hit. Well, like in your mind, your spirit, you're like, okay, all right, that's enough. All right, you got to have some type of discipline to realize that that's enough. But when you continue to drink, you continue to have more and more, then things to go bad, man.
Mm-hmm. I said that's with everything, man. Women, drink, food, okay, partying, anything, video game. Like you gotta be moderate on anything that we do, man. Because once you go over, then it becomes you begin to self-destruct. It becomes a weapon to you. So let's play this some more.
Persuasive strategies have been perfected to the point that few people stop to question them. Advertising does not sell products, but aspirations. Consumption is associated with success, status, belonging. Each object acquired promises an improvement in life, a sense of fulfillment that never materializes. The disappointment that follows each purchase is not a mistake, but an essential part of the mechanism. Perpetual dissatisfaction is the fuel that keeps the wheel of consumption turning. This model has transformed our perception of time. People no longer live in the present, but are trapped in a constant anticipation of the future. We work waiting for the next break, buy waiting for the next upgrade, plan waiting for an ideal moment that never comes. The present becomes a mere means to reach a future that, when it finally materializes, turns out to be identical to the past. We live in an eternal promise of something better, without realizing that life is slipping away in the process. Human disconnection is another consequence of this model. Interactions have been commodified, reduced to transactions conducted with the same logic of efficiency and profitability that governs the rest of the system. Time has become a scarce resource, and relationships are affected by this mentality. Conversations are interrupted by notifications. Meetings are squeezed into overbooked schedules. Deep bonds weaken in an environment where distraction.
Have you seen this? It's absolutely insane. Look at the presentation on what's inside.
Is the norm. Extreme Individualism has been promoted as an ideal, but in reality, it has isolated people. Self-sufficiency has been glorified to the point that emotional dependence is seen as a weakness. The idea that each individual must be completely autonomous, able to face life without needing anyone else, has been normalized. But the reality is that human connection is a fundamental need, not an optional luxury. The absence of meaningful bonds leaves a void that cannot be filled with entertainment, success, or possessions.
Yeah, and then you go into it, even when you go here, let's get this real quick. And this is this independent spirit. All right. And no one took that on, more than Eve. No other group of people on earth, screamed that they don't need a man. Okay. And tried to make that a lifestyle. Okay. And it is self-destruction. But even when you go into the scriptures, all right, because we're sociable people. You see, there ain't supposed to be a war between a man and woman and argue about who's the prize. Okay. The Lord created everything with a purpose, man. He created the woman, all right, to complement the man. That's why when you go here to the book of Genesis 2:18, bro.
This book of Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. It says, and Yahweh Shah power said, it is not good that a man should be alone. I will make him an help meet for him.
Yeah, so the Lord, Yahweh Shah, all right, said it's not good for men to be alone. Okay. So that lets you know that we wasn't created, all right, to be arguing back and forth about who's the prize and who do what, and y'all need me, we don't need y'all. That's madness. That's just modern shit. Okay, it was never meant to be like that. Okay, of course we need each other. We, come on, man. How can existence keep going without this union that the Lord created from the beginning? Okay. But that's that modern talk. Because here it is, these women, they like your boy, which he had a short one, all right. But you had Eve, he had that song, remember that boy, what's his name, Brandon Jamal, I think that was his name. But he had that song, yeah. But Jake, he had this song say, cause Eve say niggas ain't shit, that was their thing. I don't need a man, niggas ain't shit, they had these saying. But he was like, shit, niggas ain't shit, but y'all stay pregnant, So,
that's funny, bro.
Yeah, so it's like, they'll say these things and do the opposite because that's not natural. Okay, I don't need a man that men not dealing with women, like that's not natural, man. Now, of course, in this society, men are able to, because men protect their peace now, and the modern woman, is such a goddamn tornado, that she can't be contained for the most part. All right, but just showing you how it was set up from the beginning. All right, that Lord didn't create anyone to be isolated. That's why I said, be fruitful and multiply. Big families, like that's supposed to be the norm. In this society, big families are frowned upon. But that's really supposed to be the norm. But this is, like you say, this is this is the world of the devil, man. Okay, but let's go here. You got it, bro.
If I may add, bro, like all the women that saying that I don't need a man. So I think what was that, Pussycat Dolls or something like that. I think that was a song they came out with in 05 or something like that. Saying, there was a song that came out saying that they don't need a man. But who fixing on your cars? Who running the electrical industry? Who running all the utilities for your house? Who building your house? So, but the thing about it is, men are needed, and like you said, women are needed as well to complement. We complement each other.
Everybody need everybody. So it's not even like, even as men, like even this whole thing of boasting on what we do, like we not even supposed to be doing that. You
Con.
know, like this ain't supposed to be an argument, boasting about what we do as men. You know, like why are we even arguing about this? You know, this ain't even supposed to be a conversation. You see, but the fact that these things are even talking points and arguments that shows you how far left, you know, we've gone. You know, everybody was created for purpose. You know, because there's men created, because men we were created to do that, and women have a purpose that they was created to do that complement that. You know, well, I say society, because even the brotherhood, like we need brotherhood. You know, because like this society, you know, pushes you to rock solo dolo, you know, but really, you know, the brotherhood is needed. You know, you need a network, you know, you need a nation. All right. And that's why the laws, statutes, and commandments, they always work in favor for the nation and not the individual. Okay. That's why certain people will be deleted in the law because they will operate as an individual. You know, you're trying to commit adultery. Well, you made a decision to be an individual because that's a bad move for the nation for you to do that. So you're and her about to be deleted. You know, y'all made an individual decision. You know, y'all didn't think about the nation. You see, so when you go into the law was always about, you know, the betterment of the nation. It was always in favor of forwarding the nation. Okay, it wasn't about the individual. The individual had to get in tune with what the nation was doing, man. Okay, let's go back. Place.
Perfectly see it, bro.
We play some more of it.
The result of this model is a society where loneliness has become a silent epidemic. This is not chosen solitude, the kind that allows introspection and personal growth, but solitude imposed by a system that fragments relationships and turns people into independent units operating within an impersonal framework. We live surrounded by others, but without a true sense of belonging. The lack of authentic connections generates a diffuse discomfort, a feeling of emptiness that we try to fill with distractions that never completely relieve it. This scenario has been normalized to the point that few stop to question it. It is accepted as the only possible way to live, as the inevitable price of progress. But beneath the surface of this apparent normality, something doesn't fit. There is a persistent feeling that something is missing, that life should not feel this way. However, expressing this discomfort is difficult because the dominant narrative keeps repeating that everything is better than ever, that the problem is not the system, but the individual's inability to adapt to it. In a world seemingly designed to keep us busy, productive, and distracted, the most essential question remains the same. For what? Modern life, with all its material splendor and technological advances, has stripped many people of a deep understanding of themselves. The disconnection, alienation, and emptiness felt daily are not merely side effects of a flawed system. They are the result of an even deeper disconnection, a disconnection from the self. The search for purpose, although seen as a priority of human existence, has dissolved in a web of external expectations, imposed goals, and societal ideals. We have been taught to find meaning outside ourselves, in wealth, in the accumulation of achievements, in social recognition. But this pursuit only leads to dissatisfaction because these achievements never seem to fill the inner void. The life presented to us as the most advanced, the most progressive, is actually built on an empty scaffolding. This emptiness is felt more acutely when one pauses for a moment, when one allows themselves to think for an instant and asks, amid all this noise, if this is really what was sought. Every time we immerse ourselves in the rhythm of social expectations, every time we go with the flow, we lose an important part of ourselves. We tell ourselves it's all part of the process, that success is just around a corner. But that corner never arrives. And the worst part is that we've gotten used to this feeling. We've learned to live with the anxiety that tomorrow will bring something better, when in reality, the future only reflects the present. Waking up to this emptiness is not easy or immediate. It is a painful process because it means facing the truth that the system does not have the answer it promised. The search for pleasure, comfort, and social validation only leads to dissatisfaction that grows over time. One might think this is a process experienced only by the most desperate, but in reality, it is a common experience for all who live at the center of the modern paradigm. The constant question, is this all, is a manifestation of a deeper desire, the desire for authenticity, the desire to find meaning that does not depend on what one has or what others think. This emptiness is not only related to the lack of clear personal goals, but also to a lack of connection with something greater that transcends us. You know, sometimes
Yeah, and there's something greater, is Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, you know. Um, let's get a few precepts, we get ready to close it out. Uh, so you go to Zephaniah, and this is what we've done. The Lord has put the Spirit on us in these latter days. Okay. Zechariah Salaki. Zechariah chapter 1. So read Zechariah chapter 1, verse 3, bro.
God, this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 3. Therefore, say thou unto me, like unto them, thus saith Yahweh Bashim Al Shai of hosts, turn ye unto me, saith Yahweh Bashim Al Shai of hosts, I will turn unto you, saith Yahweh Bashim Al Shai of hosts.
Yep. So as we turn back, to our power has turned back unto us, and now the Holy Spirit has given us purpose. See, this is our life back. You see, this is why, there's an emphasis now in the spirit of tapping in, to the purpose, man, to the assignment, to the mission. Because this is our life. This is what gives us life, man. This is what makes us go. Okay? Because we was once cogs in the machine, just another gear, all right, that made this engine go, which we still, have to be there to a degree. All right, but that's not the end and the beginning of us, man. We found our purpose outside of this whole system as we turned back, to our power, and that's why coming into, the truth, as we went into this the other day. All right, this is Matthew 2 and not Matthew. I need to go to Mark. I'm gonna get the book of Mark, chapter 2. So you go here to the book of Mark, chapter 2, and read verse 22, Bob Bishop.
Come, this is the book of Mark, chapter 2, verse 22. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine doeth burst the bottles. The wine, it's like in the wine is spilled, and the bottles will be merry, but new wine will be marred the water.
Yep.
But new wine must be put into new bottles.
Yeah, so you gotta understand that whole way, of this world, that consumerism, materialistic, and everything that he was saying in the video. That's part of that old wine. You see, and we reached a point now to where that old wine, has to be all right removed. Okay, and then that old wine, gave us a certain perspective, and that's why you gotta get rid of the wine and the bottle. You know, you got to put this new wine, this new doctrine in a whole new bottle, which is a whole new perspective, man. You know, because we see that this man, you know, cultivated us to believe a scam, you know, and have a perspective of reality based off a scam. So now, man, we have this new wine, which is this truth. You know, we have to put it in new bottles, which is a new perspective, man. You know, you had some, bro. We'll close out. You had some.
Bro, it's all good.
Okay, come. Yeah.
I did have that. Salakia. I'm gonna go and get it. Luke 5 and 38. Just to back you up, where it said new wine must be put in the new bottles.
Luke 5.
Luke 5 and 38.
No, you got it, bro.
This is the book of Luke chapter 5, verse 38. It says, but new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. So just going back and just bringing that out to back you up. You know, what you said with the last precept. When we get to this new wine, when we get to this new spirit, must be put in a new us. Basically, we have to continue to grow in that. You know, we can't bring the old ways and the old doctrines and everything else and all the falsehood and the paganism and all the bullshit that we knew before this truth into this new bottle, into this new way of life that we have, this truth. All right. Well, they were just to back you up on that, bro.
Well, yeah, the point been made. So, you know, we just want to go into the, you know, the great deception, you know, of modern society. You know, I'll put the video and the link real quick in case y'all want to watch the rest of it, rewatch it. But it's a pretty good watch. You know, we watch these things, and that's the spirit just been bringing out how this whole thing is a scam. You know, everything's a scam. Everything is rooted in deception. Okay, and it's done intentionally. All right, the system is not fixed. It's running exactly how the devil wants it to run, and it's supposed to break people. Okay, the system is not broke. The system is meant to break people. You know, financially, psychologically, you know, physically. You know, that's what the system is meant to do. So it's working, you know, exactly as they have it working. And now they want to roll out a new one, okay, which is digital grid, which is going to be more oppressive and controlling. You know, so yeah, you niggas that think this new world order is going to be an upgrade. All right, good luck with that. You know, but till next time, you know, Lord will, you brothers and you sisters were edified. Once again, we'll give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation to the whole elect. Shalom.
Shalom.